welcome everybody. This is DH Thorne, your buddy in the darkness, mind the shadows and all that good noise. We are not going to be joined by Fleshy tonight. He messaged me just before, so hopefully you guys weren't counting on him. But instead, I have the magnificent L the Alchemist as a stand-in, and we can hear him this time, I believe.
Check, check, 1 2 1 2. We should be good.
Yeah, sounds like it's working good. At least I can hear you. If they can't hear you, oh well. Only I need to hear you, really.
We can do introductions for the 5th time. It's cool. I'm always
we probably should. We probably should, because I don't think everybody knows you too good. So for those who don't know Mr. L the Alchemist, introduce yourself while I take a drink from my sparkling ice, which I wish I was getting some kind of a
advertisement. So shout out advertisement. That's going to be in the future. I'm L the Alchemist. I've been studying demonology, ancient history, different forms of exorcism, and was for 10 years. And I was a hardcore Catholic, and then turned to Luciferian, now to Alchemist. And I've do lots of spell working. I've worked with different entities, from the Simon Necronomicon to cosmic, like angelic, to the infernal, and I've had an insane amount of growth and great change and deep reflection that's helped change my life. And so now with all this stuff, I've been able to just kind of hop around and spread knowledge here and there through different facets, and I'm just here to help you transmute your reality by changing your perception to something even greater. So
that's usually how it has to begin. You have to change where we'll say the spotlight of the mind is pointed. You know, the mind doesn't produce any thoughts. It's really there to spotlight and highlight the thoughts. That's what it does. Yeah. Let's change where that spotlight's pointed, and then you can kind of change what you experience completely. So yeah. Let's say hi to everybody. We got who do we got in here? We got, let me put on actual chat, live chat. Since Fleshy's not here, I'm going to be all slow on the chat uptake. So if I miss you guys, please forgive me. We got Wyatt Coverdale, as always. We got Still City. We got Timothy Foster. We've got Faustian. We got Astarte Astaroth. We've got Jojo Blair. We've got Star Ruby Corsi. We've got LVX 777 with the 7 in front. We've got, let's see, who'd I miss? I think we got Sin, S-Y-N-N. We got CM Helnakainen, my good buddy. We got Doc Stivel. I don't know if that's how he wants to say it, but that's how I'm going to say it. That sounds like the right German pronunciation. We've got Alpha Draconian. What's up? And I think that's everybody. That's everybody. Yes, indeed. All right. So we will be taking your live chats as always, your super chats as always. That's probably the easiest way, especially since we don't have Fleshy watching over the back end here. But anything in all caps, and if you tag me, or any of our mods, but I don't think our mods are here yet, we will try to get to those as soon as I notice them. Of course, it's both first come, first serve, super chats come first, and whatever I notice is kind of how it happens. So Shift Happens, what's up, brother? Hopefully you're still doing better. I noticed that you've been around a bunch, so hopefully you're feeling all right. American Black Magic, what's up? Stuart Henry, what's up? And the illustrious, the weird, the most notable Eddie Romanov is also in the chat. So yeah. All right. So let's see. It's still a little early yet. We don't have everybody filtered in. I noticed that lately the views are going down again because, for a couple of reasons, I haven't been as active as I like to be. I've been taking, I don't know how many of you guys noticed my announcements, but I've been taking sort of a halfcation, if you will. I'm working at a different thing right now because I needed to distance myself from all of this community noise and everything else. I'm really sick and tired of the so-called community, but I also just needed a break to recharge my creative batteries. I've been doing this for over 2 years without a break, producing at least one video a week plus a live show. It doesn't sound like much, but when you're talking about something spiritual and you want to keep it something different and fresh every week, believe it or not, that's harder than it sounds. It's easy to just like get on a camera and just bullshit like we do Thursdays. but to have a topic that's fresh, that's tough. That's real tough.
And also have a good thumbnail and have different things that they say you need I
to
feel
get
like,
those clicks.
yeah, and even the titles, like
Mm-hmm.
everything is so many layers to it, and to get consistency, like that's even every Thursday, just staying
Mm-hmm.
consistent on those things, like that is hard, especially for a spiritual channel. Like there's other channels, they can just make it about anything. Like that's what it is.
Yeah, or like
Like,
current events. Like I wish that I was pure politics sometimes because I'd have something to talk about every day. Of course, I'd go fucking crazy like I do because that is like my like every ascending master as they're ascending has something that keeps their feet stuck to the ground so they don't make it off the ground. And that's my thing is the fucking politics and current events. Like that keeps me human right there. I think without that, I'd already be like a fucking star god or some shit flying around. But for real, like and but yeah, and because I do occasionally get political now, I can tell. I watch my analytics. I'll get political. Now my subs don't go down. People aren't mad at me, right? It's not that. Like most of my audience is either open to what I have to say or leans in the direction of what I have to say, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Very few people are like, "Oh, how dare you talk about Trump in a positive light," or "How dare you?" Most people are pretty chill. And I noticed that algorithmically I can tell because I'll make a video about something and
Yeah.
that video it just won't even have any traction even if I don't make it, like if it just comes up, if I bring up the jab in my video just as an aside, forget it, that shit's gonna crash, it's gonna burn. Hey, from the light of the darkness, thank you for the 10 spot, thank you for being here, brother.
What's
Good
up,
to see you,
dude?
JD. What's going on, brother? Gotta have him back on at some point. I think we'll have to do a chat or something.
Definitely. You definitely do.
Yeah, Jeffrey
Dude,
524, what's up?
what you're saying about the algorithm, when it's drama or when it's, honestly, that was something my brother once told me. He says, if it's drama or flashy, that's what you do for the adults. And it's actually what turned me to be like, well, then I have to make something for kids because it's for laughter, laughter and
Mm,
education, And
mhm.
at the end of the day, like the algorithm just tells a story. It's just like, it's just like what is that called? That's well, geometry or calculus. It all tells us, like its own line, its own thing of code of what reality is, and it's just a part of that. That's the algorithm. It's just what it is. And it's
It
unfortunate
is.
that
Yeah.
people get so fired up about it and they get so entertained about it. And I don't know. I feel like it's an output for their drain, their drama, that they have inside. And unfortunately, they're looking into a black mirror, their
Yes, yes,
phone, and that's really like mass mind control, just like the television and
yes.
BlackRock. Like
Mm-hmm.
how now I used to tell people there's 6 corporations that own 90% of the, and then I'd say that, but now it's like no, there's only one. It's BlackRock, and
Yep. Yep.
the fact, the awareness that people, even if you say that, like, and they would have to then look into it and then understand it. If the whole world just started doing that on so many other things that are going on, instead of us bickering and fighting about, oh, the Kyle Rittenhouse, oh, this has been blown to the absolute most ridiculous proportion, which is what's been going on with everything. Like,
Yep.
magnifying glass it. I don't know, dude. It's like straight up obvious what's going on, and I know you've been searching for like the true situation that's been going on, like behind the scenes, and a truth seeker, and so you've been seeing it, and as well as like my own self. I know, like I've had it for a while, and I'm just blown away that there's still people that aren't awakened to what's going
Yeah.
on around.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll get to that in a second. Jay Sauber, thank you for the super chat, brother. I appreciate it. Love you, brother. I'm glad you're here. Behemoth X, love you too. Scarlet Bales is also. I didn't notice that before. What's
What's
up, Scarlet
up?
Bale? Behemoth X is one of my inspirations on the video front. Absolutely, he's a very powerful sorcerer, interesting character, and a fun guy to just chat with. One of these days, I swear, we're gonna throw him in the back of my car. We're gonna just abduct him, and I'll have him hanging out with me on stream somehow. We'll have to make it happen. But I always appreciate Behemoth X support and friendship, man. It's pretty awesome. Thank you, brother. Scarlet Barrels too. You're awesome, awesome girl. So yeah, I mean, the thing that I see is, you know, people sort of have a world perspective where, for whatever reason, you know, they don't like to realize that, number one, we are technically living in the golden age of mankind right now. There's never been a time, at least in recorded history, probably before recorded history, but not during recorded history, where mankind has had it so good. Never. That sounds crazy with everything that we see going on, which is why it's going on, by the way. We've never had it this good. We've never had, you can say, oh, Africa is all impoverished and all this. Yeah, of course it is. But in the aggregate, in the total mean, in the total average, humanity's never had it this good. We've never had a better quality of living, even for the poorest people, than we have today. Believe it or not. I know it doesn't sound right. I know it sounds crazy, especially with what the media portrays. But we actually have it really good. We have more education, more wealth, more health, more everything of everything that has ever been important to humanity. We are literally living in the equivalent of what this study done, I think it was in the 60s, it might have been the 70s, called Rat or Mousetopia. Okay, they set up this enclosure for these rats that was perfectly made for them. It had everything they would need: ample room, ample food, a good breeding stock to start with. And initially they flourished. They did really, really well. And then they reached a point nowhere near where the maximum carrying capacity of the enclosure was. They reached a point where these rats suddenly began to get apathetic, the rat equivalent of nihilistic even. They had certain rats they called the beautiful ones that all they would do is preen and lick themselves. They wouldn't mate. They would just they would I don't want to make any implications here, but they would engage in non-productive sexual activity, we'll put it that way. All kinds of stuff. And within a matter of, I don't remember how long, but in a short order, once that stage was hit, the entire colony collapsed and they all died, like to the last rat. There was no illness. They were checked medically. They were in the perfect condition. Dead rats were removed. Like there was no problem with competition for food. They just collapsed. And this study was interesting because it showed that without a certain amount of pressure, certain animals will not do well. It seems like without a pressure to compete with one another and without that pressure, they failed. Now, I don't know if that really applies exactly because we still have our pressures, but a wise person, I think I saw the quote today, someone on my Discord said it, or I saw it on a chat somewhere on Twitter or some bullshit. A wise person said, you know what the problem with America and a lot of the West is? We don't have any actual crises or problems, so we create them socially because we have nothing to fight against. We have literally no enemy except ourselves. And so what do? We attack ourselves. And that's what we're doing right now. And it's really depressing. Hey, Infertile Obelisk, what's up, Connor? That's Connor.
What's up, Connor?
Yeah, he was on here a couple weeks ago. That was a fun stream. Poor guy stayed up all night for his poor. But I know he's a vampire too, so he's up all night anyway. But still.
Yeah, he's awesome. I watched that. He's great. I appreciate all he does. I honestly, I don't, you know, there's obviously drama, whatever. I'm happy I'm not involved in any spider web, but all I could say is just sitting and seeing what's happened the past 5 years, like really hardcore 5 years in the world, and the amount of more people just immersing out, you know, that's obviously good and bad, you know, whatever the case is, we're in a non-dual reality. So, you know, it's appreciative. So it's great seeing everything keep developing, but you're right. There's something we're being distracted with on competition and making our own problems, and emotionally, like getting it way too involved and feared up, you know, with what's being projected at us. And that's where I think meditation and, you know, taking those steps into really who you are and understanding yourself and letting go, honestly, just being able to disconnect, whether that's like going on a walk, because sometimes that's the best way to get stuff out of my mind is just to go on a walk and it's gone. But sometimes it can be sitting in the pitch black, or, you know, it could be hitting your chest or going to the gym. Everyone has their own way of it, but I think you definitely need more than one. That's for sure.
Zach Schwartz says, what's up? Shout out El the Alchemist. I think that's a friend of yours, knows you from somewhere, I think.
Oh, what's up, man?
If not, he still says hi, which is awesome.
So,
Yeah, I mean, so right up until like 3 weeks ago, I'm going to say my head was buried like a tick in drama, and mostly on political drama, but just in general drama. And it was one of those things where I feel the tightness, not like my heart, but the tightness in my throat chakra. Does that make sense? I feel my throat chakra just closed off because I'm so busy shouting into the universe, like completely like in vain. Like it doesn't matter what I'm saying. Like people are just, like all I'm doing is preaching to my choir or arguing with people who are never going to change their opinion. I got some friends on Discord that I know I'm never going to change their mind about things, but we argue anyway because it's not really about them. I'm trying to talk about an opinion, and so are they, and we're trying to get our views out there for others to decide on. But we're really just, like I'm really just engaged in drama like a tick, right? And I try not to be. And so it was really good for me. Like Behemoth is saying, I stick it to magic, I keep to magic. Yeah, I tried, but you know what I had to do? Quite honestly, my spirituality wasn't helping. I had to shift gears and go back to my old day job part-time and do heavy labor for like 3 or 4 days a week. Because it's not just sitting around an office. It's not just, I needed to completely like take the gear out of the, like I had to completely switch the gears, like take that spiritual gear and just whoosh, give it a break and go into labor mode. And just, the reason I had to do that was because number one, I couldn't look at the internet for like, because the problem is I'm home all day in this little, living room cubicle thing that I've got set up here. And there's no life in here, really, just me. Like I get to look out a window that's facing in a direction where I just see a house. It's not really a view. I don't feel really like inspired after a while. And you just kind of get the dopamine hit of the internet all day. Like I become like a web nerd. And I don't go outside. Like I'll start good, but then I wake up, put the phone in my face, and I do that. And the computer, it's so toxic. It's like the worst fucking thing. So going to this job meant I could not do that at all. Right. I mean, I could, but not, I could take a break, of course, and check myself, but I can't like revolve around it. And so I was able to detach from all the little dramas going on, because that's part of it, is they want everybody completely on edge. That's part of the thing that they're doing to everybody. And it's manifesting everywhere. Like that's the thing. People are like, why is everything going crazy with the drama on the internet, drama with the occult community, drama with this, drama with that? Number one, drama sells.
Yeah.
In fact, I just took down as a test to see what would go on. My EA quitting video from a month ago was this. I have videos that have somewhere like 20,000 views or whatever, like my audio, like my music type things. But the EA quitting one had more views when I announced that EA quitting got deplatformed than any other productive statement I've ever made. And that's an important issue. I don't want to make the wrong impression that I'm somehow offended by it.
Yeah.
Like, but anything, like I've tested it where I've put titles that were a little dramatic. I don't mean clickbaity. I mean like something that would inspire, like I'm having a fight with somebody type. And people just like flies to shit. That's what they want to watch. Yeah. They want to see me fall, or they want to see me fight with people, or they want to see. And I've got little birdies telling me every day, all day, who's talking shit about me or who's talking shit about somebody else. And I'm just like, I don't want to hear it unless it's a big channel. Like if Behemoth X comes out with a video saying he hates me, different story. I want to see, like, what the fuck, motherfucker, punching down. But if it's just like, I don't want to hear it because I don't really care. Most of you people aren't real, right? Most of you people are just words on a screen to me. You don't even matter. Yeah. So, but this stuff gets it gets the attention. And we're speaking about the algorithm earlier. The algorithms on all of these social media sites, they are designed to generate clicks and to keep your attention hooked. And if you are finding that all you see is drama, it's because you're feeding that beast, because that's all you're doing is clicking on drama. And that algorithm so the algorithm will, like if you make a post saying peace and love to everybody, even as someone with a really big audience, like, well, not really big, but decently big audience like I've got, that will get just a little bit of attention. But if I say, fuck EA Coetting or something, right? That's going to have like 1,000 times the engagement, right? Or anything like that. And so, or if it fits the narrative that the system wants you to talk about, right? And of course, if it doesn't, the Agent Smiths pop out. I mean, you're dressed like you're a Matrix character here tonight, so I got to bring it up. But
Please.
the Agent Smiths will pop out and argue with you and just defend the system. That's the other thing that'll happen.
Yeah.
So, but that is literally what they want. They want demoralization throughout, especially the Western culture right now. They want us all to hate our governments, hate our histories, hate our traditions, hate our friends, hate our families if they can. This way, we're bewildered and lost and at each other's throats more than we're pointing at them and saying, what the fuck are you doing? So, for example, right now, instead of everybody being up in arms about whatever, political party you're in, which is important, I suppose, on some level, everyone should really be, instead of boycotting, Kyle Rittenhouse or some shit, you should be all marching around fucking CNN and MSNBC and Fox News and all of these conglomerates and just tearing them down. They are one of the worst things that has ever. They're like public enemy number one in our free society right now, because they're no longer free speech. They're propagandized. They're worse than that. I mean, they have a bully pulpit in our system, and they're in league with all of these other social media sites and everything, so that when one says something, it's Mockingbird media. When one says something, they all say it, and social media carries the torch for them, and it presents a wall of propaganda that to get around can only be done directly, like face to face like this. It's the only way. And they know that while that's effective, you can't reach a huge audience this way. So they want us all fighting when we're on our personal time. They want us all fighting about stupid shit. And that's filtering into our everything. This is why I'm not just, it is not just the occult community. If you have your nose dipped into other communities around the world, you will find that almost everything's got either drama or apathy going on right now. People are either just don't care that much. And so creators of other kinds of content, like I watch sword channels and stuff, and I just see like less views and engagement than I normally see. And when I do, people are like bickering about, oh no, that sword should be this way. And it's like, what the hell? So, and people are asking like, oh, it's going to be a politics. We're going to talk about politics too, but I always like to frame it in at least a psychiatric, if not spiritual dimension, because I don't like to say, vote this way. I want you to see the problem the way I understand it as best I can communicate. I want you to see that this is not a physical, mundane, political, this isn't Coke versus Pepsi like every other year. This is a spiritual, like Christians get this part right. We're in the middle of a spiritual war right now, right? Spiritual being mind, body, and soul. The whole holistic game is being, the war is on right now, because we are at that changing of the ages, right? We are in they know that all the energy shift is moving, and they want to capitalize on that and make sure that they control the Great Awakening rather than allow it, right? And really we are in the middle of the Great Awakening, because humanity is more connected than ever. We have access to this information we've never had before, and people like me can reach an audience for nickels, I don't need thousands of dollars of equipment to do this. I can do this for nickels at a time. And more than anything, our virtual world is allowing us, the astute, it's allowing the astute to recognize the falsity of their own identity, because you can change identities just by changing your handle on the internet, just by changing your username. You have 10 emails, you got 10 different characters you can play at any given time. I do that all the time because I like to wrestle Jimmys.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing I was saying about BlackRock. Like, once you see the puppeteer of the puppeteer, you realize that there's distraction going on, and it's causing all this extra ruckus. And if you can just detach from and just look into other ideas, then maybe you will change your mind. It's just the stuck in a certain mind state. I think that that's really what it is. And people don't like to have it shifted, but it's good to definitely have obstacles to change it. Otherwise, just like that thing with the mice, you would just become, like, it's great to be able to keep evolving. Now, I know you've said before, like, we already are what our greatest is, yet we're still becoming it. And I'm just, would your interpretation then be, actually, what is your interpretation? Like, is it your higher self, or is it that shines through this vessel, or is it this huge being that is of all, that is interconnected like tentacles, and it's all connected, and then you just go from that to another one?
So part of my next book is all this, but I don't mind sharing. No, because I'm rewriting. Basically, I'm making like Western sinister occult version of Advaita Vedanta, right? That's kind of what I'm doing. Like I'm going to be changing the terms, like chaos is going to be Brahman, soul is Atman. I'm changing it around a little bit, making it more relatable to Western minds and putting my own spin on it, of course, which is definitely different from the rishis too, by the way. I have a few different interpretations of things. But to put this, what you said, to kind of, so you asked me a multifaceted, multi-layered question, and it's a really good one. So to tackle the first part, when I say that you are already perfection, okay, yet you still feel an evolution, you still experience an evolution, a change, a shifting, okay? Mm-hmm. Let me get a prop out here. Let me find a prop, something that's something good, something that'll be, yeah, fuck it. We get Shadownomicon, okay. So, all of Shadownomicon is right here. Let's assume Shadownomicon is perfect. It's God. And every page is an expression of perfection. But you can't read it all at once from within the book. You can only read it one line and page and word at a time. So as you read this book, perfection doesn't seem perfect. You have to build it. You have to grow through it. But it's all there already. You are that divinity that's already perfect, but you are discovering that perfection because that's the game you're playing. You're playing like a hide and seek game with yourself. You are the Brahman. You are the Atman. They are one. They are the same thing. You are everything. Now, what does everything mean? Most people don't think of everything the right way. When I say you are everything, everyone thinks of a snapshot of everything that is right now. Fair. But you're not just that. You are everything from the beginning to the end as well. You are everything from the alpha to the omega, from the Big Bang to the end of the universe, and not just in this universe, all universes. So that means to be what you are right now, to be El the Alchemist, and only El the Alchemist, is an illusion. You have to forget that you're everything, and you have to focus your attention on just El the Alchemist. And El the Alchemist just interacts with a very, very tiny little pinhole worth of that totality, of that infinite totality. So you're seeing a very tiny little positional perspective, and that perspective shifts in what you call the direction of time, the dimension of time, from one way to another. Time doesn't move, okay? Not like this isn't sloshing around. It's in all of these states all the time, but consciousness follows it as it appears to move, but it doesn't move. Just like the words in a book don't move, but you move through the book one word at a time, and then the story forms consecutively in that exact same way.
So it does come out as perfection, because through your experience, like there's a point where I hit in my magical journey where I saw how my past was affected by what was going on in my present with different spirits, and like it's almost like, once you really lock onto, I guess, knowing yourself, so you can actually know what goals, like, that you really like, the heavy things you're going for. Like, I found my 3, working on a program, doing my kid show and doing my music, and then, hopping on podcasts here and there, like finding things you really have passion for and going at it, and having that passion fulfilled for it. I don't know where I was going with that, so that's hilarious.
Well, let me read this. Rye of the Fallen says, "Hail the 9, never stop what you're doing, Thorne." Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
But to get to where you're going, well, I understand what you're saying about fulfilling your passion, because here's the deal, okay? My whole life, if somebody were to look at it from the outside, they'd say failure, 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 endless failure. Until 2 years ago. Then suddenly I'm doing well. I don't even mean financially. I just mean I'm achieving something. Like I'm not just working I'm doing something that's making an effect on the world, and I'm feeling validated, right? And as that happened, man, that's a high that I wish everybody can experience at least once in your life for a little while. I hope you all get to live your dream, even for a few months to a year. Just do it once, and you'll never forget it. It's amazing. And I didn't even hit that high, right? I'm just, oh, I got a couple thousand subs on YouTube. Whoopee! You know, and I'm very successful as like, not many self-published authors can claim remotely even like a fraction of what I've made on my books, which I'm very lucky and blessed. It's not quite enough to live off of anymore, but when that shit first hit, I was making like $2,000 a month off of those books for a while. And I mean,
hell yeah,
that's very rare. Like, not, I'm sure, like, you know, maybe EA's does that, but not many other people can claim the same. And I felt really good. But you know what? After hitting that, then I go, well, now what? Now what? What's left? And I'm having visions of me being like, you know, like I'm watching fucking, what is it, The Omen, and I'm like, oh fuck, why am I watching The Omen? Oh shit, I took Thorne as my writer's name. Oh crap, that's the name of Damien. Wait a minute, is this am I supposed to be some kind of an antichrist or something? And like my head started getting away with me. Like, you get that swelled head, you really do. Yeah. I'm saying this jokingly because it is like the places your brain goes once you start getting success. Your balls get swole. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And I'm like, am I going to be like a leader of like some world or community? Like, what's going to happen? All right, so cool. Everything's cool. But here's the problem. It's like stacking paper, right? You stack paper, it takes forever. And once you reach a certain, well, now what? Like, oh, one more slip of paper. It doesn't feel like you're doing anything anymore. And it felt like, what's the point now?
Yeah.
And eventually you're just kind of chasing this dragon's tail around and around and around. You're not accomplishing anything meaningful. This is why I think people who are hyper wealthy, it's just a habit that they have to just keep becoming more wealthy, really. You know, but I don't know. I've never been that wealthy, so maybe I shouldn't speak about what I don't know. But what happens is there's every individual person being an avatar for chaos, for being an avatar of divinity. Each individual one of us is presented at some point in our life, usually, I should say, not always, but usually, with a point where the only place to go is in. You're presented with a challenge where either you've reached rock bottom, or you've reached the pinnacle, or both. You've done the pinnacle and the pit, or both, or one or the other. And you have no place else to go but inside. So you've achieved everything you want outside. You've achieved everything you failed at everything outside. The only place left to go is in. Now, why is that? Because the point you're trying to recognize is that this and the things that it accomplishes are not you. They're a part of you, like the tip of your pinky is a part of you, but they're not you. You are way back behind this thing, okay? You are the silence, you're the quietness, you're the consciousness, you're the silent witness. You are not that running monologue of ideas. You are not the experiences, you're not the pleasure, you're not the pain, you're not the anger, you're not your khakis. You're none of these things. You are, if you want to know what you are, first of all, you're divinity. And if you want to know what that is like, you need to learn to shut this up completely. You need to be able to tune it out. And that's a bit of a misunderstanding when I say shut it up, because it's actually not shutting it up. See, we think that we create thoughts in our heads. We don't. We don't generate thoughts. We discover them. Thoughts are always there in the multiverse. They exist in a static, the whole multiverse is there. Bang, the whole thing from start to finish, all of them. Our consciousness is what moves through that multiverse and encounters what we call thoughts by focusing the mind on the activity of things like brains, okay? And as our awareness pays attention to the brain and all of its majesty and weird shit that it does, thoughts arise. And these thoughts arise, they're not alone. Every thought that has ever thunk exists always. If you could hear every thought that is ever, if you could have every thought thinkable, what would that look like? It would look like a great emptiness, because it would fill in all the blanks so that you couldn't tell the difference between one thought or another. It would look, so you know, like when you have sound cancel itself out, like you have, like you make enough noise and then you put it out of phase with the noise so that it cancels itself out. Basically what I'm talking about, when every thought is thought, Like when every possible thought is had, it sounds like nothing. It has no experience. So this emptiness, when you reach the emptiness that I'm talking about, you're not silencing your mind. That's impossible. You can't shut a thought up. Like you can't shout at shouting to make it quiet. You have to stop shouting. You can't think thoughts away. What you can do though is stop paying attention to them. You can ignore them. Right? They still happen, but you just look away. You look at the silence in your mind, not the noise. And at some point you can focus on the silence only, and the noise goes in the background, if not completely away, to the point where I will have subtle thoughts, I will have loud thoughts, and I will have no thoughts. I'm mostly in a subtle or no thought state most of the time. That's not a common thing for people.
Yeah, that's
by being in that state though, that means that is actually a lower threshold of samadhi. When you are in a silent state but still engaged, okay, you are no longer having egoistic ideations all the time. I still get them. Obviously, I talk about thoughts. I still have thoughts. I still have egoistic thoughts, but they come and go. They are not my center anymore. When they are, I suffer. You can tell when I'm deeply engaged in my ego because I'm arguing with people. It becomes about this and that. It's all the wrong things. When I'm actually my true self, I'm more not passive, definitely not passive. I bend and I accept and I just express what's mine, and I don't care if the world crumbles around me. It's perfectly fine. So that's that. I'm reading super chats. I'm getting distracted myself, but that is what I mean by you have to turn inward. All of this crap outside, we spend our whole lives thinking all of this outside shit or these noisy thoughts are the point. Yeah. It is the point from one way of thinking. You are here to experience that. They're not bad. Like they're not a sin. Yeah. They are rather a distraction if you forget yourself. And we've all forgotten ourselves.
Oh yeah. And that's the biggest part of it all too, is know yourself. So the whole thing of Inky or Lucifer, however you want to see, the know thyself is the biggest thing. And once you understand that, I feel like you can finally take authority in your life, and you'll actually desire to push forward, to take authority of your life. And then you
already have that authority. That's the message that I try to give people. When people, and let me read the super chat, and I'll get back to that. Alpha Draconian gave us a nice $4.99. She says, no more meat grinders, no more bricks in the wall. We want freedom.
Hell yeah.
I mean, we have freedom, but we have to
keep it.
Act on it. We have to act on that freedom. It's one thing to be free of the mind. That's the ultimate freedom, of course.
Yeah.
But if you can't act on that freedom, that's tension. You can't really live that freedom. And we need to insist on it. So let me see. I got some other like tag chats here. Let me see. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. So here's the deal. So Wyatt Coverdale says, Thorne, you got me all confused about what schools of Hinduism are which, because you tell us what you do is Vedanta. No, I'm not Vedanta. Vedanta is the ending of the text. Vedanta is not the philosophy. It's like the poetry. I am an Advaitin. I'm a non-dualist. I'm not technically an Advaitin though, because I don't actually practice Advaita Vedanta. It is, however, one of the foundational metaphysical metaphors that I prefer. I am knowledgeable of Platonism, knowledgeable a little bit of Neoplatonism, which means also Hermetics and Gnosticism, which are they're all like orbiting around Neoplatonism and Platonism, right? They're all like variations therein. And I wouldn't say that they necessarily came from it, but we're definitely informed by it on some level. Like Gnosticism in particular is very much a Neoplatonic kind of non-dual monist, idea. It's more Neoplatonist than non-dual. Non-dual is a monist philosophy, but it's transcending even a monist position, which I can really get into depth if you want. But I am not. You can say somebody's a Vedantin, I suppose, but really, my own philosophy is my own philosophy. I have some that I like to talk about though, because they are closer to what I see than others. And there's a lot of language in the Vedas and in Advaita and Zen and Taoism, which really like Alan Watts is the only external guru I will claim. I don't believe in gurus at all, except for your own personal guru, your own watcher, your own HGA, whatever that is. That is your only true guru, and that is ultimately you. It is not separate from you. It's ultimately you. So your own true guru is what I emphasize, not an external teacher. I would never, someone says, who is your guru? Or Thorne, you're a guru. If you ever say that I'm your guru, I might laugh and smile, but I'm really insulted, you know, because I'm not your guru. I'm just a lot of noise that some people think is useful. But so no, I am not interested in being a Vedantin or an Advaitin or any of that. But I do borrow, because truth is truth. And I will change terminology sometimes because I think that is proper. I think that the Greeks and the Indians, for example, during that time period had a lot of interaction, to the point where you can see how they influenced each other, probably more from India to Greece, but I could have it backwards. They really influenced each other strongly, such that the things being spoken of are echoes of what was learned from these other cultures, to the point where there's things that Plato talks about, like the allegory of the cave, which sounds like Maya. It sounds like the rope snake analogy from Hinduism. It's very similar. It's very related. So I am not, however, specifically Advaitin, even though that is my preferred language. That is not, you know what I mean? It's like I speak Advaitin very well, but I even differ from them a little bit in that the way that I describe it, maybe. But I could sit down with a Rishi and have a great time. I would love to talk to a Rishi. I would love to go back in time and meet a Rishi and be like, let's talk. I don't know what it would sound like because they'd be talking a completely wrong language for my brain, but we'd try. CM Heldekine gave us a 5-spot. He says, King Balaam has been calling, but I've been ducking his calls, and now the whole Ghislaine thing is happening. And I think I should have answered, I got a lot of stuff about Epstein from that. And Ghislaine, look, they're silencing that for a reason. Why do you think that why do you think, I put this up before, why do you think that you're hearing more about things like Jussie Smollett and all these other things, anything other than this? You're hearing more about bullshit than you hear about the most important case of all time. And somebody's like, oh, I'm so excited, we're finally gonna get justice. No, you're not. They're gonna hang somebody out to dry. Maybe they'll get a couple of big names to make it look like they cleaned house, but the entire thing will be untouched. They're still gonna be shipping kids in Wayfair cabinets from here till the end of time. So that's not ending.
The Maxwell thing's pretty crazy, but they don't say anything about that out loud.
Yeah. Right. And they silence that stuff. They literally silence it.
It's like, what if people just understood like the reasoning behind they're in that situation versus all the BS, then more people would probably stop fighting because they'd be like, wow, there's something to fight for. That's so messed up, man.
That would be something. That is definitely something. And I think fighting against the lockdownerism, this is not the plague that kills even 10% of the people who get it. This is a plague who only kills the people who are, let's put it like this. Somebody posted this theory I saw somewhere, and I think it's actually pretty accurate. And the theory is that this Kofifi thing was released on purpose as a bioweapon that was produced with the intention of killing off the elderly in especially China, because they have an old people problem. It's getting worse. And by releasing something like this, they can lower that burden, because the current generation is they don't have enough kids. And by killing off the elderly and the sick, they have less of a problem in the next 10 or 20, because they're hemorrhaging, like they're doing bad. China, like people are all terrified China's going to invade us any day with EMPs and shit. I'm like,
there he did.
I'm like, well, you know what? They can't, they're a paper tiger. I'm not scared of China yet. Get back to me in 5 or 10 years, but I'm not scared of China yet. They're a boisterous paper tiger that really can't do anything. What they can do, though, is buy our officials. They can spy on them and blackmail them and have power that way. They don't have power by themselves as much as people would think. Yeah, they got a huge army. Yeah, they got this and that. But you know what? That's not the problem. That's never the problem. Armies are a last resort. Real power is flexed way before the army comes out. The army is what you do when you failed at everything else, when you've shown too much weakness in other areas. You don't start with it. You don't lead with your army. You lead with everything else. And that's where their strength is not really in their army. And they're not that strong, except they've got our leaders. If the American people, and they're not even the big boogeyman, they're just the active arm of the real boogeyman, which is way behind the scenes. Even Soros is too front of a man. He's not the real source of this. He's way in the, he's like 2 or 3 layers down from the real rulers that are doing this.
Let me ask you this real quick along that lines. So when it comes down to like, we could go into a nuclear war, like during the Cold War, when they're actually going to shoot some missiles off, there were different bases that were actually going through with it, and they had UFOs go by that shut down the equipment. And you can look into it and like don't backtrack all the records. But wouldn't that, if there's beings outside of us that are also controlling what's going on, would we assume that they would be the ones that are behind telling the other people what to be doing? Or would we be assuming that they're making sure that we stay on track to this specific evolution for this specific purpose? Or do you think aliens are bullshit?
Oh man, that's a tough one. All right, let me get the super chat first. So Starty Astaroth gave us the what is it? Eddie knows what it is. The ass reaming, the fisting. Yeah, the fisting, the fisting hippo gimmick over there. Thank you, Astarte Astaroth. We love that one. That is a classic. All right, aliens. It's always aliens. I refuse to deny, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. And I've had my own weird experiences with the alien logo on it, right? To put it mildly. The problem I have is this idea of extraterrestrial visitors that are coming here in Star Trek spaceships with warp drive to convey their bodies around and appear here and abduct us and stick shit in our ass and guide us into some future that's amazing, or to destroy us or to enslave us. The problem I have with all of this really comes down to one factor, one primary factor. That is transportation. The reason this is an issue is this. Sending my body to the store to get groceries is enough of a burden on my technology that I don't do it anymore. I press a button and have the delivery come to me. That's number one. Number two, I don't travel to talk to you. I do it virtually. I don't come to you anymore. So the idea to me of civilization boarding a bunch of flying saucer UFOs, flying here across countless light years potentially to get here, unless the technology was stupid simple for them, which causes a different problem, which I'll get to in a minute. If to travel here just to stick the finger in the ass of a bunch of hairless apes sounds ridiculous to me. Not saying that nobody would do it. I mean, we'll travel across the world to go check out mold on the side of a mountain in Peru. We'll do it. But it's not enough for us to move heaven and earth over, right? So the technology, they'd either have to be so advanced that it's stupid easy, in which case they're so far advanced from us that we are literally slime mold to them. So again, you have the question of why. But then, even if you could account for why, it's difficult to explain the how. Even if you could say there's some science we don't know, you can fold space, there's wormholes, there's something else. So this idea that they're coming here in bodies and spaceships, I have a fundamental, not saying it can't happen, saying I just have a fundamental skeptical belief.
Yeah.
So what is more likely? Well, obviously it's possible that there's nothing going on and it's just a bunch of bullshit. I don't know if I like that either.
I don't like that. It seems impossible. I mean, multidimensional.
So we get into other ones. Well, there is multidimensional, but I think multidimensional is a misunderstanding of our own concept of reality. If we don't see reality for what it is, what do we even know a dimension is? We don't know what a dimension is. When we talk about multiple higher dimensions and stuff, what we're really talking about is other directions besides up, down, left, and right, and time.
Yeah.
So what we're really talking about is other universes. And if they have an entire universe to explore, how would it be easier to come to this universe than it would be to go to another planet in their universe? Is it easier to punch a hole in this universe into another one and travel that way than it is for us to go to another star? I don't know, but I'm going to say probably not, because I wouldn't even be surprised if the technology is the same. I wouldn't even be surprised if in order to travel to Alpha Centauri in a reasonable amount of time, you've got to punch a hole. So now we're talking about another problem, the time issue. Yeah. Well, human beings live at most 100 years really reliably, 70 years. So to us, a journey of 1,000 years is retarded. We're never going to do it. Right. So we just think there's no point to that journey. But maybe an alien is like a tree and it can live for several hundred years or 1,000 years with no problem. And they could get here that way, maybe. But what if there's two other possibilities? What if they aren't capable of faster than light travel? What if they're just capable of really good stuff, but it's pretty conventional? What if they can, like, maybe, like our idea with Starshot, where you can use a laser beam to accelerate some shit to 1/10 of the speed of light and get it to Alpha Centauri in 50 years or whatever it's going to take? That's plausible, and they're working on doing it right now. Okay, maybe that's what they got. Well, what if they have just a really advanced version of that, and they can send like a Von Neumann probe or something that is equipped with, well, look at our own ability to sequence DNA and designer genes, which we know they can do, but they say they can't. All of that stuff. If you can make a virus do shit, you can make it do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So they what if they have the ability to treat biology like we treat a machine? What if they can send a probe here that will reach our space totally automatically with an AI aboard? Let's get to that in a minute. That can create bodies and do the things that it needs to do and interact with us or hide from us. It can be hanging out in the asteroid belt or something. We'll never see it. It could be the size of a suitcase, pumping out all the stuff it needs to do. We don't know. Maybe. I think that's more likely. And what if really what it is a consciousness of an alien, what we'd call an alien, uploaded to a machine that has come here and then downloads itself in little clone bodies and gets shot down out of the sky and crashes in Roswell or some shit. And it's not even a real person that lands. It's a biological robot that lands. And we get that and go, this isn't a person, but it is. Maybe. That's all. Of course, this is just fantasy time for me. These are just hypotheticals.
Yeah.
Well, that's a cool one. Well, what if, here's one of my final options. My own personal understanding is this. There is only one consciousness. And it slums. Like, it basically slums. It's pretending to be you and me. And it's taking turns being us. So the same me that I am behind D.H. Thorne is the same you that you are behind Ellie Alchemist. That same silent observer is the same silent observer in both of us. It just forgets that it's the same one. We forget. I forget that I'm you. You forget that you're me. And we are literally living a life of ignorance. We don't know we're the same person. Right?
Yeah.
What if there are beings that have achieved a culture of what we would call enlightenment, where they're taught from a very young age that their body is not them. It is just an avatar for the universal consciousness. And from a very young age, they learn to recognize that and then shift intentionally between objects and throughout the universe. What if they come to us with an egregoric body to speak to us in our dreams and in hypnagogic states where we think we see them with their UFO spaceships and shit, but it's really just inside our brain? Maybe.
Wow. That one sounds pretty wild. That was pretty wild.
So this idea, I personally don't buy. Here's my problem. Anything that you call a UFO, I'm not saying we've never had an alien ship land here. Maybe we did. Maybe it's even likely we did. But I don't think any of, like, the last batch of UFOs that you saw, like that the government just released, I think that was all of our own shit.
Probably, yeah.
And we were acting like we don't know what it is, because if we admit we know what it is, well, that tells you our tech level. I think that we have technology Go look at like the dullest lights. Go look at the other Area 51 places that exist. Like Area 51's a red herring to keep the conspiracy nerds' attention. The real deal shit is going on in like, I guess, North Dakota and places like that. The places you don't hear about. If you hear about it, it's not real. If you can search it on Google Maps, it's not real.
Yeah.
Okay. So the technology that they have stashed away. What's the most advanced aircraft that we have right now? How old is it? 50 years old?
Oh God, I couldn't even say. Maybe 40. Yeah, maybe
Right?
50. Yeah.
You're telling me that we haven't done anything in 40 years?
No, and that's, I mean, that's like what, like when we come out, they have the Apple, whatever, Apple 1000. All these things, they already have things taken care of, and they just bring it out little piece by piece. We definitely have been way ahead. And if we have touchscreens, military's already got the hologram to another level of like, to think.
I'm not even going military. I think that the military itself, like, I think that they've already got their breakaway civilization that they're living in.
Wow.
And we call them aliens now, maybe. Like, I mean, that wouldn't surprise me either. But Psycho Shinobi says, speaking of tech, techno-feudalism is spooky as fuck, and I refuse to conform to it with every fiber of my mind, body, and soul. Good for you, Psycho Shinobi. Thank you for the 5 spot. I appreciate that. And I wish you luck, because that is going to be the challenge of anybody who's living today. That's the challenge. Because techno-feudalism is going to require only one of 2 ways around it. You've either got to do what we always do to feudal, overlords, or you've got to just unplug and be a neo-Luddite, basically. And both of those are hard.
No, that's crazy. You really think it's going to hit to that point? I mean, it kind of makes sense, like the cyberpunk idea, and 50 years from now, that probably is possible. But I wouldn't want to be plugged in. But then again, it kind of comes down to the jab, like there was a lot of things I was thinking about doing, and then I'm not gonna conform to certain shit,
Well, let me ask you, do you trust this? Oops, do you trust this thing?
No,
do you trust
no,
this?
no, not at all.
So why are you gonna trust them to stick a chip in your damn head that's basically that, but it's in your head now? Like, no thank you. No thank you. I'm probably going to opt out of that one, even if it means I don't get to play Doom 75. I don't give a shit.
No, you can play it. You can play it. It won't be updated,
Yeah, it'll be the 2D version, and I'll get pwned by all the kids.
Your bit rate might not be high enough, but it's all good.
Yeah. It'll be pixelated, but But yeah, for real. I mean, I don't, you could even say, well, it won't affect your brain at all. They can't, it's only a receiver, and then it does. Okay, but what's stopping them from putting just a little tiny cyanide capsule or something in there that when you say the wrong thing, pop?
But yeah, exactly. See, I don't trust that. And I will say, well, the reason why I also put these on, there's 2 things I do that help me sleep better is I put my phone on airplane mode. Mm-hmm. I hear you can unplug your Ethernet. Just so you get rid of those things, that radiation, that's the only way I can call it, radiation in the air. And I put these on about an hour and a half before I go to sleep, blue light blockers.
Yep.
Because it actually releases melatonin like way quicker, and you can actually get in deeper states of sleep. And another problem that we have is your screen, when you're looking at it way too late at night, if you don't have like this filter over it, then it's going to keep you up too. So it's just other shit that they do, and they try to dumb us down. Sure. I actually had a friend.
I like shungite, by the way. Use some shungite.
What's shungite?
Some shungite cubes. Where's the one I've been using? I've got like 5 of them placed around. I haven't been using them lately because I've misplaced. Here we go. There's one. So shungite cube is a special kind of carbon-based mineral, and it comes in all different shapes and sizes. But they are proven, not just like, psychic woo bullshit proven, like New Age bullshit, literally proven to disrupt and block EMF signals and things like that. So you place it between you and your phone, and it helps scatter it so it doesn't hit you in the brain, for example. So let's say you put your phone on your nightstand. Well, build a little fortress of solitude around it with shungite, and it'll bother you less. You can actually, I don't know if it will disrupt it so you don't even get signals or not. I'll have to, the problem is it doesn't cover, maybe Eddie will tell us. Eddie's more of a tech nerd than I am, but it does interfere with the signals. So it can help you a little bit there. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever watched Johnny Mnemonic, but it reminds me of Johnny Mnemonic, where they were all suffering from NLS or whatever it is, the shakes, and it was all caused by all the technology everywhere, just making people sick. And it's you know, this is why I say, like, the elite have been telling us, this is why I tell everybody, this is a multifaceted point. All of our pop culture is filled with occult knowledge. This is why I don't laugh at anybody who maybe builds a magical system out of Dungeons and Dragons. Even it's filtered into everything. It permeates all of our culture. Like, if you watch The Matrix with the right mentality, you might wake up. You might have a non-dual awakening just from that. Okay, because that movie is pretty good. Like, you know, they definitely illustrated it very well. And I use examples of that all the time, because they're not. Oh, you're just copying The Matrix. No, bro, Matrix is copying shit that's from like 5,000 years ago at the earliest. No, but also their plans for us. Either there's only two explanations: they exist in the collective conscious and filter out in our pop culture, or they are signaling to us that they're going to do it through these things, so that they sit in our collective conscious, so that when it happens, it pops like an open sore and it just runs over. This is why I'm watching the chat and people are like, oh, Cyberpunk 2077 has definitely happened. Cyberpunk 2077 is definitely Cyberpunk 2077. That motherfucker is predictive programming.
Yeah.
They're trying to get you to sign on to this, just like they did to my generation. They're trying to get you to sign on to this not just dramatized, but
it's a reality. They're literally trying to psych you in to manifest that reality, and like
they're trying to romanticize dystopia. That's what they did to my generation. When I was growing up, we had every dystopia. You had Mad Max, you had all the cyberpunk stuff, the real before 2070. So we had Blade Runners, we had all this cool shit. Like, people are like, oh, Cyberpunk 2077. So, dude, to me, that's like, I feel like I'm watching like Lord of the Rings at this point. That's how old it looks to me. I haven't played it yet. I know it's pretty good. But I haven't played
neither,
it.
and I thought about it.
I will. I promise I will. Maybe I'll eat my words when I play. But I look at that and I go, like, that's nothing new. This is like, have you played Deus Ex? I mean, this ain't new. This is all stuff that's been set. It's just a new packaging that's hitting you as a actually, millennials get hit with the hardest for whatever reason. It's tuned to your vibe so that in 30, 40, 50 years, as that kind of a world manifests, you're going to go, I knew it. But here's the problem. The romantic part's not going to be there. All this romantic shit about how it's going to be, and you're going to have, like, you know, like we were all taught that when cyberpunk happens, you're going to have these Blade Runners, and you're going to have these Shadow Runners. They're going to be sticking it to the man and stealing data and fighting the system, and the anarchists, and you can be able to buy guns on every corner. And the biggest fear was that capitalism was going to run away with itself and kill us all. And it turned out it's something else that's much worse. And so all of the, like, we're getting the dystopia that's the worst kind. We're not getting the cool kind. We're not getting the kind where you get a flying car and a gun that talks to you. We're getting the dystopia where it's literally like the most banal of corporate logos. You're literally getting a wood chipper that's painted in a fucking LGBTQ rainbow flag with a giant smiley face on the side that says, welcome, we are an equal opportunity destroyer. And everyone's like, yay, at least they're for equality. And if you turn around and say, I don't want to, they go, oh, up. You're one of them. You're a hateful person. You don't want to jump off the cliff. And it just drives me up, because I look at this and I go, where's the edgy cool people? Well, I'm sorry, we got rid of that. We want postmodernism now, where everything's just ironic and self-loathing now. We don't want classics. We don't want edgy, thoughtful people. We don't want independent thought. We want everybody to be like, I love you. That's what they want. They want that. And that's the dystopia we're getting. We're not getting the cool one. We're not getting the one that they're selling you. They're bait and switching you on your dystopia, guys, because even I like the dystopias in the movies. I fantasize about being fucking Mad Max all the time. I'm like, fuck yeah, that'd be so cool. As much as it would suck. You know, there's like a fantasy going on there. Yeah. But the reality of that, like, watch The Road. That's a little bit more likely.
God, that movie.
Right?
Yeah,
watch The Road. Watch Children of Men. Now you're aiming more in the direction of what's coming. And it's not. And 1984, of course. That's way more like it.
I don't know. I would rather 1984 would probably be the worst case, because then it's like you have a bunch of everyone. Like, I laugh and joke and say people can be bots, just like the whole Matrix. Like, and if they're a bot, they might as well just be an agent. But at one point, it's like if we are all plugged in, and not only is this thing, like a chip and everything else, but then they're already in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, at least, everything's traceable. Every email you send, and that's also one thing I've really liked about just in general going out to the public. Really, you throw out all your bones, you don't give a shit, like that's the way to really stick it to the man, because they don't have anything on you because you're so open.
Yeah.
That's the biggest way to fight the system, as well as actually one part of the show that we're working on is we're building our own little self-sustaining farm at our studio house.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to get it so it's like the whole it's inside the subdivision, get the whole subdivision like on board to why not do that. And just like we wouldn't have world hunger if everyone just started making their own food in their backyard. Like, I know everyone can't make specific.
That's the issue. Like if you're in the middle of sub-Saharan Africa, you're like, what do I do though?
yeah. No, I agree. But I'm just saying, like, the amount in which we have, like, people say we don't have enough to sustain. I'm like,
there's absolutely no excuse for hunger. I agree. And like, I'm not a socialist, but I agree with the socialists, at least on that level, that there's no excuse for world hunger or world homelessness. I mean, obviously beyond personal choice and war and shit. There's no excuse for any of that in our country or around the world.
Yeah.
If I know it's probably a false number, but I've heard it quoted that for a fraction of the price of our military spending, we could feed and clothe the world and we'd have a lot less enemies because of it. Now that's probably not completely true. That's probably kind of bullshit, but the sentiment I think is completely true. And that drives me up a wall, because I know for a fact it could be done. Like when I'm arguing with socialists on my forum, I'm not arguing against food stamps or basic welfare on the principle we can't afford that. I'm more concerned with whenever you have these give outs and handouts and stuff, they tend to enable toxic behavior more than they alleviate. Unfortunately, speaking as someone who's always been poor, I've never accepted those things because they don't help me. I know they don't. Because when I shouldn't say I've never, when I have taken a little bit of it in the past, when it gets taken away because I'm doing better, I resent it. Instead of being like, ooh, that helped me, I go, you're saying that I can work no hours and get the same thing as a part-time job, or I can work a few hours and get full-time money from all the subsidies and shit, or I can work 40 hours and not make a dime more than I did at 20 hours because I lose all of the benefits. So there's a hump there that a rational person who's self-serving isn't going to happily jump over. That why would you work 40 hours if you don't need to? Why don't you work 20 or work off the books, even better, and get all your welfare? And so there's no reason to be a more, and that's, I don't want to get like into that kind of partisan politics shit, but that's my reasoning to dislike it. It has, and the other level is anything the government or an entity can give to you, they can take away. And if you're reliant on them giving you something, then they can get you to vote or act the way they want just by threatening to take it away. That's the final nail in the coffin.
No, that makes a lot of sense. It's the fear mentality behind all that. And plus, having your own fire, like, to get your mind off of stuff, like you said, you had to go do that so you didn't have to deal with the end of the drama, picking up the job. Like, even for my own job, like doing that on top of everything else, I'm really thankful for, because it's a way to detach from everything else. So then you have that fresh outlook and fresh mind going back into something and keeping yourself refreshed. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And I was just pointing out that charity is the mother of poverty. That's a good statement to a point. I mean, up to a point. Here's the thing. I think we're all socialists. It's just how far out from our own personal being we want to be socialist. My family's socialist, right? I expect from my son what he's capable of, and I give to him what he needs. And the same thing in return. He gives me what he can, and blah, 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 blah. And we all support each other. Well, that's socialism in a nutshell. That's what it is. Socialists, the hard socialists, want to expand that to the whole country. And they don't want to give you the option to opt out. They want to make it mandatory. And that I don't really agree with. I don't want to feel obligated to your family to take care of me or vice versa. I don't want that, but communities, like socialism works on smaller communities completely. If people wanted to be like, oh, well, every town has the option to be a socialist collective or something. Sure, whatever, make it opt out. That's all. Just make it so I can leave if I want. That's all. If I don't like the way the town's being run, I'm not stuck there. That would be nice. you know, and that isn't as disagreeable as a centralized federal socialist system. That's too much like authoritarianism for my taste. If you want to have local, anyway, we're getting into you know, I know some people are going to charge in from my thing. Time to argue, you know? But yeah, this is why, like, I can, to a point, talk. But the problem is, whenever I encounter a socialist, very rarely they'll say, like, I'm pro-gun, and then they'll say, but I want to have gun control that's common sense. It's like, nope, you're not. That's not. We don't agree now. You see, you just showed your authoritarian colors because you want to disarm me. That's not, you're not freedom loving. I know you think you are because you don't want the corporations, but you still want me disarmed, which to me is like, I put it to people like this, especially if they're magicians. If you're a magician that believes in curses and you use them occasionally, if you believe in black magic, you can't be anti-gun. Because if you believe a curse can kill someone, and you're willing to use it even, you can't be anti-gun. You just can't. It's ethically, it is like, it's what's the word we're looking for? It's hypocritical. It's hypocritical. So you're telling me you believe, so if you want gun control or you're anti-gun, so you're saying that I need to be licensed, registered, whatever. I can only have a gun with so many rounds in a magazine, blah, 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 whatever your thing is. Well, what if I said the same thing to you? You can't use this kind of a curse. And if you do, you go to jail, or only the government can use this kind of curse. Or how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that analogy? How do you feel about that comparison? If you don't like it, if you think, hey, that's not right, I should be able to use, that's part of my religion, that's part of my this. You can't be anti-gun. The two have to be treated equally, in my opinion. Someone said, well, a gun definitely kills people and it doesn't. Well, do you believe in curses or not?
Well, it's rights. You know, at the end of the day, if you're a magician and you're outside of just, oh, I'm just a magician here, but like seeing some bigger picture, it's like, don't mess with me. I'm not going to mess with you. Everyone has freedom, that libertarian, just like what you said, a town can be like that. You can opt out, but don't make it even a whole state. Make it town to town, and really
county to county, town to town.
Easy. That's so much easier. And then, do we want to connect to this? It's like it's way more easier, but it gets so politicized. And
yes, it does, because it's about power. It's not about freedom. It's about power and control. Yeah. It's not about helping. And Will Invictus says, as long as there's consistency, we live in a system of corporate socialism. Bailouts for the big guys, little guys, you're on your own. Yeah, really, that's true. Yeah. And you're never going to get it the other way. I'm sorry to tell you, if you want it the other way, you've got to go live in a very like neo-Luddite kind of society. You got to go Amish or some shit, maybe. I don't even know if that counts. No, you have to go full tribal, I guess. That's the only way you're going to get unfortunately, because whenever you create a system of centralized aid, you create a weapon that can be used to make people do things. It's just, it's like I said to somebody today. I said, it's not that I have a problem with the giving away. My problem is that it centralizes too much power into a system that can be manipulated to do harm than pure freedom does. The closer to freedom you are, the harder it is to do that. You know, you may not like the outcome of freedom, but at least you have a chance to fight it. Under a system that is really top-down controlled, you personally can't do anything to stop it. You know, in a truly free system, you know, look, you can opt out, you can say no, and they can't hurt you like they can this way. Look at a country like Australia, which is arguably way more socialist than America is. They can stop you from doing business, they can stop you from everything if you don't get the shot, if you don't suck the dick of COVID. And people are refusing to. And it's going to turn into a civil war at the rate it's going. It really will. I think it will. I think you're going to see, at the very least, if the Australians are lucky, the equivalent of what they did in Iceland, where they kicked out all the bankers and shit. I really think that that's coming.
Wow. And you know what? That would be a great awakening for the planet to be able to see that. And then, you know, maybe then at that point, be like, well, maybe our system has a little situation going on. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll definitely hope for that. And I honestly, I believe in the future. I used to be one that felt like the next 5 years world was going to end. And it put me in a pretty depressive type of state. You know, magic has definitely helped me out along those lines, as well as psilocybin, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, shut up, man.
yeah, but you
I live in a
know,
state where it's not legal, so I can't say positive things about it yet.
yeah, it's all legal here.
I'll be
But
there in a week.
yeah, yeah, but you know, it's just, you know, coming around to that whole awakening and a deeper understanding. I don't know. It'd be great if people just quit. You know, if the grid went down, I don't know if this is gonna happen or anything, but I feel like if the grid went down for like 2 months, now riots and stuff probably would happen because people are people. But after that all died down, do you feel like after social media would be off for 2 months, that could change things completely? Now this is all hypothetical, but you know, in one sense, it doesn't seem like too bad of a situation.
I think if the grid goes down, the only people who are going to suffer for it are us. The system of control will still be just fine because they're not tied to that grid. They have their own infrastructure that's independent of that grid. So they're not going to go down unless it's something so global, and that wouldn't even be a solar flare. They've got hardened systems that, I'm not talking about everybody. I'm talking about enough of them would have power enough. We wouldn't like it. It wouldn't be what you think. It would be nice. It's a nice pipe dream. And I agree with you on some level, like that Fight Club ending where he knocks the buildings down, everybody goes back to zero. That'd be fucking great. But the problem is it wouldn't happen that way. And you know, unfortunately, like people say, the certain amount of authoritarian is built into every, you know, system of sanity in a society. It just is. You need people with guns and people with authority to tell you what to do to keep the streets clean and blah, 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 blah. But it's just a question of, as I've said, the only ethical role of government is to preserve human rights, not to enforce, you know, equality of outcome. It is only to preserve human rights. That's it. And of course, that's why they want to make everything a human right now. But if we assume what human rights are only what you can prosecute yourself without taking from other people against their will. That's really all it is. So you can't say medical treatment is not a human right. Access to it is, but not the acquisition of it, because you have to make someone else provide it for you. So you're going to tell me all doctors are slaves? Like by becoming a doctor, you're a slave now because health is a human right? That's not true. You can't tell me that a doctor has to. You know, I mean, you could say that a doctor has to take an oath, but that's like, come on, let's don't make him a slave.
Yeah.
So there's so many different layers to this. So that's the only ethical role for government. Anyway, back to your question, your point. If, you know, I think it would do everyone good if we could all disconnect from, this is not real. Like people are like, I know corporations that are terrified of Twitter having a bad day for them, where they trend on Twitter, and that's all they need as an incentive to not do something or to do something. Why do you think all of these companies fly these rainbow flags like crazy and do all, not because they give a shit. They do not give a shit about those issues at all. They don't care about BLM, they don't care about the rainbow flag, they don't care about any of those issues. They're just ways to camouflage themselves so that the low info idiot won't target them for outrage. Now, the funny thing is, if you follow this left-hand path position a little bit, you realize that, number one, there's no such thing as bad press. That's number one. Number two, fearing that outrage mob only makes it stronger. By just trying to do the right thing a little bit, you can weather most storms, right? Yeah. So these corporations are shady fuckers. That's really what it boils down to. So they hide behind these things and they play lip service to it, which feeds into the gaslight is the world. And it's not. Like Dave Chappelle said, you guys think Twitter is real. That's the problem. Yeah. You think that's the real world. It's not. Twitter is not the real world. Yeah, there's a lot of people that use Twitter, but it is a microcosm. And it's a curated microcosm. It's not a net. So like if you were in a, that's what I mean by curated. If you were in a real public square, you would see that, yes, a lot of people think the way that these people on Twitter do. But you would also see the silent majority of people are like, fuck these people. They're ridiculous and crazy. They're not the majority of people. But Twitter algorithmically curates what's important. So does Facebook, so does YouTube. So they control a perception by curating the content just with their algorithms. That's all they even have to do is just use and because the government and the people who watchdog this shit don't see how that algorithm functions, we don't know if that algorithm is just giving you what you have algorithmically selected or influence that algorithm to make sure that the things they want you to see are put there. And I know this because a few years ago, Facebook put out a report saying that they did an experiment. And the experiment was they wanted to see if they could influence the mood of their user base by using the algorithms to encourage people to see things of one way or another that they knew would either upset them or make them happy and so on. And they conducted this experiment and it was a complete success. And they realized that they had the power. You can, I don't know how you look it up. I remember seeing it, but I guarantee if you do the right Google foo, you'll find it. Facebook can algorithmically change the mood of the user base by controlling what they see. Mm-hmm. They know they can do that. That was a public test, but they've known about, so now they know that. That was 10 years ago or so that they admitted that. Maybe it was 6-7 years ago. It was a while ago. That was then. Look how much technology advances in that amount of time. You're telling me that they can't guide everything? Why do you think all this fact-checking crap? Why do you think all this shadow banning crap is such a big deal and people know about it? Because these corporations do this because it is the future. That is the future of, and that's why when everybody tells me, like I can, unfortunately, maybe I sound like a nut when I say this, I can often tell when someone's consuming that stuff to the exclusion of what I see as the truth. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe what I see as the truth is a lie. That's probably true too. I don't doubt it.
That's right. Yeah.
But the algorithm I use is in here. And when they want me to think something, I look the other direction, just like I do with spirituality. If a Christian says that's heretical, I go, wait a minute, that might be useful to me. So like, that's like my post that I made a couple days ago, where I'm getting into like these heretical forms of Christianity, not getting into like I worship God or something, but getting into looking them up, because if the establishment church says it's of the devil, it's probably not. It's probably the other way around. It's probably something really important. So there's, for example, there's the notion of universalism, which is the idea that everybody eventually finds salvation, even the people who go to hell. There is no hell, really. There is just, earth is literally the hell. Yeah. And our lives are recycling. That's why we reincarnate until we do whatever it takes to be, found right in the eyes of God, which is a metaphor. I believe it's really a metaphor for the enlightenment process, the leaving the cycle of samsara. I think it's all the same story, just in different cultural lenses. That's what it is. All of these things are telling us the same thing. Yeah. It's just one culture emphasizes it in a way and then gets carried away with itself and turns it into something that's like Christianity and Judaism and all that is originally Sumerian and Akkadian lore. And I think that there wasn't really a non-dual juicy core there yet, but if you read it, there is a juicy non-dual center. Even so, like Sumerian is celestial magic, celestial theurgy, right? It's you become the divine by working with these different planetary forces and making yourself like them, recognizing them within yourself is the better way to say it. And you go through the planets. You start with the earth, the root chakra, and the lower Sephiroth, and then you rise up. You go to the moon, and then you go to Mercury, Venus. I think then the sun, then Mars, and you go through all the way until Saturn is at the end. Now Saturn is at the end, but it's not the final step. The final step is always the Ouroboros around it. That Ouroboros is the cycle of life and death. People think that Ouroboros is a sign of life, and it kind of is, but it's actually the cycle of samsara version of life. It's not, yay, I get to live forever. That's only one dimension of that Ouroboros. The other dimension of it is that's the prison, is you're still reincarnating when you could just be the whole thing, right? And slaying that dragon literally means just going past it, crossing the gap, crossing the abyss. And recognizing that you are divine. And so that's actually fundamentally not unlike the various non-dual or related systems of Advaita, Zen, Taoism. All of them are kind of they just have different ways of doing it. They just have different techniques to break you of this mortal coil That's what the mortal coil is. It's the cycle of samsara. Anyway, I'm talking a lot and you're not getting a word in edgewise. So
that's totally fine. No, like for real, like everyone has their different mythologies that are all saying the same story, as well as when you hear about the flood and seeing that occurred, as well
the
as the
flood, Atlantis, that's the same story.
Exactly. Yeah. And all these things that happen to people laugh and say it's mythology. And it's like, no, like this reality we're in right now is so fake, so unreal. And yet we're being sold this fantasy versus the reality, what's out there. It's like, that's what I enjoy so much about training. You know, like obviously I'm not going to be able to pick up a planet and throw it across like Hercules, but the idea that there were things.
I don't know. Speak for yourself.
You pick up rocks and that shit.
Let me reveal the gun so you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But anyway. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, nice. Yeah. I need a little more definition. Fuck you. Anyway, keep going.
But just like pushing myself physically on that level and knowing like there's a spiritual force around this, and obviously we're just a part of the consciousness inside the physical vessel, but we can push each thing, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. And that whole life-death cycle, you know, push yourself and then you're super sore or whatever. And then you go through that, but yet it still brings about the growth. Or, you know, there's all these, like now for my next year, I have all these things on this list I want to accomplish. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to get there. And once I get all that done, that's it. Here we go. I'll have my reward. Yeah. But it's like you get to these accomplishments to realize you just hit another mountaintop. And now you see your next step, your next mountaintop and going after that. But it's about finally getting, I guess, your bag together and then going on the adventure instead of complaining about, you know, that complacency and worried about, you know, the exterior, what someone else is thinking and all those type of things. Just, I mean, it comes back to that know thyself, and we don't have to go down that road again. But still, you know, once you really know yourself, then you can go down that. But yeah.
One of the first wisdoms that I picked up from Alan Watts had to do with basically talking about what you're talking about. And it's like spiritual one-upsmanship that you do to yourself and with others. There's always a carrot on the stick, and you're always chasing after that goodie. You always want to be more enlightened. You always want to see more of the truth. You always want to blah, 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 blah. And this is why I often tell people you're already perfect. Just stop for a minute. Okay. You don't gain spiritual attainment by gaining anything. You actually have to let go. And I've told people that this journey you're on, spiritual journey you're on, it never ends until you realize that you are at the destination already. You know, so I forget which great, you know, sage of our modern time said, enlightenment is not an answer to questions, it's a cessation of questioning. You don't seek answers, you're actually seeking a cessation of questioning. And that's a big step in spiritual attainment, is to realize answers don't quell questions. They just lead to new questions.
Yeah.
What you're really looking for as a soul is an end to questions. And you can't find it with answers. The only way to find it, this has unfortunately been misinterpreted as faith in the Christian sense, where you don't question, you're an ignorant fool who just accepts everything. But it is acceptance. Acceptance is the only thing. That acceptance doesn't mean you stop looking and exploring the world and having fun. What it means is that you don't look for answers to the question. You realize that the answer is really simple. You don't even need the answer. It's already there. You're it. You're already it. You're the whole show. This is just a thing that this lifetime is. It's again like reading a book. The whole lifetime is already there. You're just going through it word by word. And it's an inevitable thing. And people want to feel like they have control over it because that's what the ego does. The ego validates itself by thinking it either has control or doesn't. Either one makes it happy. The ego wants to feel like a victim, but like it had a choice, because that really makes it feel like a victim. Oh boy, there's no bigger victimizer than the self. I am, woof. So that's a big problem. So we try to we try to achieve perfection, and we're always reaching these new plateaus and going, shit, there's another one.
Yeah.
So that's silly. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say the synchronicity is what I feel like brings together that whole book thing. Because when you have those incidents that happen, you know, or spirits talking to you in that metaphoric way that only your perception can receive and understand what's being spoken to you by the outside events, like those type of moments intertwine the seams of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think is like the most fascinating thing about magic. And even though you could tell someone about things, they say it's a coincidence or whatever, that really binds it all together. And you know, like, it's like the right place, the right time. It's right in sync with what's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's a great way to get in that knowing. But I don't know how to make someone more aware other than being able to calm them. Just what you said, like the disconnect in a sense, to be able to shut it off. Because like that's what I really had to work on. I always had a yapping brain and, you know, always going at 1,000 miles an hour. And I was like,
sure.
You can just dial it down and then go slower, and it's an easier way for projection, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the secret to, as I say, silencing the mind, which is a misdescription, it's not really an accurate description. You're really, again, you can't silence thoughts. You can only not pay attention to them until they die away. And thoughts are always in the universe, okay? And I say that because they're not just in your head. Thoughts are just endless. You identify those thoughts in your experience and you make them yours by way of ego. But here's the deal. When I was 13, I read a book on hypnosis. And little did I know that this book on hypnosis contained the fundamental seed of what is various, we'll say, transcendental meditative technique. And the seed is literally to focus your mind intently on something simple. A word, a letter, a picture, something, however your brain works. Some people are visual, some people are. You focus it on that. And you do it in a way that's repetitive or whatever. So the one I read was you envision a black chalkboard and you write the letter, the number 3 on it. And you just do it over and you keep saying 3, 3. And you just keep doing it in your mind and you take your hand away, but you keep seeing it 3, 3, 3, 3. 3, and you get into a state of repetition. So you know your next thought is going to be 3 and nothing else. 3, and you visualize it, and you see it, you feel it, the whole thing. And then you stop writing it. You write it, then you erase it. You write it, then you erase it. You write it, then you erase it. Now you're getting used to having the thought and having it go away, having the thought, having it go away. So it's not just 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 with no break. It's 3, 3, 3.
Oh.
Then you start to notice the empty space between the two times you wrote the 3. Now you're doing good. Now you can actually do a 3 and a blank, blackboard. Cool. You're still seeing a blank blackboard though, potentially. So now let's get rid of the blackboard. Now let's just say we're drawing it in light. We're just 3, 3. And then at some point when you feel the time is right, just stop writing it for a moment. For at least a moment, there will be nothingness. There'll be perfect stillness in your mind, even if only for a half a second. And your first thought is usually going to be something stupid like, hey, I'm not thinking right now. Oh, fuck, I just thought. But you will have a moment of silence in your mind. So I figured this out at 13. I did this because it sounded like a cool trick. Because I was like, yeah, I've never had a moment in my life where I wasn't thinking. I can't think of a single one. That's really weird. What's it like not to think? I'm going to have to try that. And that's what my brain was doing. Like just blah, 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 blah. Like, let me try that. And I did it, and it took me like maybe a half hour. And I had my first like, oh shit, I'm not thinking moment. And then I'm like, fuck, all right, I had that. But if I had that, that means I can do it again. And I did it again and again and again and again and again. And then I forgot doing it. I didn't do it for a while. And then a number of years ago, I got into this stuff really hard again. And on my first try, like, thought's gone. I'm like, whoa, that's neat. And the weird thing is you don't even you can't even acknowledge the thought, you can't even acknowledge that, that you
once you're in it, because the thing is once you're in it and that happens, you can't have any acknowledgement of the stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like,
you're just aware of it. Like you can't say it, you can't think it, you can't write it down like the same, like you can, but you can't. So once I was able to do that, then I was listening to Eckhart Tolle, and I forget what he said, but he implied something in the effect of like, that I forget what the question he was asked or whatever, but I think he implied something to the effect of that, like, being able to live in that silent mind for more than, you know, for a lengthy period of time is important, and a sign of a certain amount of attainment, I guess. I don't remember exactly. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember. But I was like, all right, today's the day. And I made it my goal to think as little as possible through the whole day. And I remember clearly I was sitting on the toilet listening to this because I was getting ready for work. I'm like, today's the day, you know, cleaned myself up. And I switched it off by not focusing on it. I focused on the emptiness. And I went through at least 2 hours without more than maybe 1 or 2 stray little blips popping through that were necessary to do my life. I went through several hours with barely a whisper of thought, if any, really at all. Like, I would count it, but it was like really like next to nothing. And I realized I can go through long periods without active thought. Yet I can still prosecute my life. I can still talk. I can still walk. I can still make decisions. I'm just totally spontaneous. I'm not planning anything. I'm just acting. Most people don't realize that I know I talk a lot. So people think, oh, for somebody who can shut up his mind, you can't shut your mouth up. Fair, but that's not actually where my words come from. They are spontaneous. I'm not thinking of them before I say them. They just come out.
Yeah, it's kind of like the hyper focus, like, once again, you know, like with the phones and all that. It's a hyper focus where the attention and all that is going.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can speak out. It's better to express than to hold inside. And I mean, even to any relationships, like, people don't express and they build resentment, it causes huge destruction. Like, either way, the motion of the water is going to be hit, so you might as well just let it happen instead of trying to go into reserve. And that's, you know, obviously the world it has been kind of been doing that. But getting rid of thought, I would say, to be honest, I mean, shit, probably only 4 years ago, and I'm 29 now, so it took a long time. But the evolution of connection with different spirit, like connecting with different saints, that was like when I really started getting involved with like different type of evocations and novias, like the 9-day prayers, and then different angels. And then once they got the different spirits, like different goetic spirits, and then working in the Simon Necronomicon, but like learning about all these different energies around have just really been able to, I guess, help me be aware of my own energy and like knowing when it's nothing around and then when you're working with something. And I think that that's also a part of calming the mind. Like, in order to work with anything, you must be able to be calm so you can be able to feel if anything has changed. But in order to know that, you have to let the water chill out, calm down.
That's definitely, I mean, that's why in Become the Maelstrom, I emphasize the most important practice you can have is various different altered states of consciousness, we'll say. You know, the 3 in particular that I emphasize is being able to concentrate, being able to gaze, and being able to go empty. And those are 3, and I'll still always say those are the 3 most important. Now, when it comes to enlightenment ontology, realizing that you are the one, you are the source, you are the non-dual divine, you are the Atman Brahman thing, you are chaos soul, recognizing that, in my opinion, there's a lot of different ways to do that. You can do the contemplative route where you just realize it. I mean, it can't be taught to you. You can't just be argued into it. It's impossible.
Yeah.
But you can contemplate it and then have the epiphany and go, ping, I get it. Trust me, that's a little different. You can also go with the meditative route. And I sort of did both. I did contemplative and meditative. And the meditative that I recommend is learning to find that silence, because that silence is paradoxic. It's not literal silence. It is actually what I said before about the different sounds canceling each other out. It is the absolute emptiness. So when you're empty, you are stuck with your conscious pure. So when you are truly empty, so there's different levels of emptiness, right? You can have the emptiness of everyday life where your thoughts are quiet, but you're just going through your life. That is a full mindfulness moment, because your mind is in the present, your mind is fully here, and it's not stuck on egoistic thinking. That is a threshold of a higher enlightenment position. A lot of people don't even realize that they've achieved this already. Most people have actually had moments of silence in their mind. They just don't notice it because they only think that their thinking is when they're really around. They don't really, they don't realize that the silence is when they're there too. Anyway, so having this silent time in your mind is like a threshold. If you can then, once you're in that silent space, now tune out experience a little bit. So one exercise you can do just to test this, you can focus your attention anywhere in and on your body that's sensible. Like you can't necessarily put your attention like into your guts because, you know, unless there's something wrong, you don't feel your guts, but you can put your senses into your hand. You can focus your attention so that you're really only concentrating on what your hand feels like and ignoring what your foot feels like. We do this all the time. We don't even think about it, but we do it all the time. So if you can move your consciousness around your body, well, now pull your consciousness inside and tune out the body as best you can. It's hard, especially if there's stimulus going on, but tune out as much of your body as you can. Tune out as much sound as you can. If you have to, focus on something. Remember what I said before about how you have to focus on your thoughts to make them go away? So you write 3 over and over, you concentrate on 3, and then you don't. Focus on your breathing. That's the easy one. Like focus on your nasal passage, focus on your lungs, focus on your abdomen, focus on part of your breathing process. Focus on that to the exclusion of everything else. And just focus it in, and that's why most Zen meditations involve breathing. You breathe in, you become so mindful of your breathing. Then you let go of that too. So you don't have thoughts and you're letting go of that breathing sensation. You're no longer dwelling on that. You're dwelling on nothing. You're basically creating a sensory deprivation tank where you are alone without thought and without physicality. You can't do that perfectly without a sensory deprivation tank, but you can get there. You can get close. Probably you can get there with like really ecstatic shit, like those, like the Sufis doing the whirling door. You can probably get there with like really ecstatic actions.
There's
but you don't have to.
The Wim Hof breathing exercises you can just find on YouTube, where you do like 25 breaths in, like, and then you after you do it for X amount of time, then you hold your breath for a minute and a half. And then you do it again, and you do it 3 sets. But if you do it like 6 times, you start to get that sensation of like a DMT type of activation going on around you, which takes you there too. And the fact that
I'll have to look that one up. Send me a link to that. I'll check that one out. And
sure.
So as you tune out all of these things, you are left with the question, who am I when all of that is gone? Yeah. What's left when all thought, all physical experience, all sensations, all feelings, all emotions, all thought are gone? What is left? You experience this silence, but you're still there. You know you're still there. You're still aware. You're still conscious, but you have less to be conscious of. There's less reflecting going on. And so you're still there independently without this other stuff to be in this, at least not as striking. This is now you're getting the dawning of revelation. You are not the emotions. You're not the feelings. You're not the body. You're not the thoughts. You're not your personality. You're not your story. You're none of these things. You are an aspect. You are consciousness that is just looking through this little teeny tiny pinhole in itself that you call a you. That's all it is. And when you recognize that, you can now start to separate. Even like I love humping the trees around at work. Not all the time. I still have my days where I hate it. But I'll be humping the trees around and I'm just in agony. And I just go into that place where I am just consciousness watching this as if I'm watching a movie. I still care, but I don't care like it's me. I care more like I'm borrowing somebody's car. I don't care like it's me. I still want to take care of it. I don't want to have this guy walk into the street and die, but I don't feel like I am suffering. I feel like the body is experiencing pain, but I'm not suffering. And I can just, and I just deal with it. Yeah. And it's not a compartmentalization. It's a detachment. It's a non-attachment from the problems. That's still not the point. That's just one of the fringe benefits that non-dualist types will sell you to get you started on this path. They sell you on the moksha, and when you get there, you go, wait a minute, moksha is just the carrot on the stick, you motherfucker. It's not about an ending of suffering. It's realizing I am God and there is no other point. Holy fuck. And at that point, you can't experience anything but bliss, except for those times that you forget. And you will forget because it's never permanent until maybe the day you die. Well, anyway.
Well,
so,
you are connected too by, I mean, your magic. Once people understand that, though, you can understand you can connect to someone across the world while you're doing your magic, whether that's good, bad, whatever you want to say with your perception. But, like, you can affect anything and all change because it's all interconnected. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're cool, dude. No, it's fine. So the irony, though, that silence that I describe, it's not actually silence. That's where the paradox, that's why we fuck up so bad trying to find it. That silence between your thoughts is not silence. That is actually all of the thoughts, all of the sounds. That is actually omniscience. Omniscience from the perspective of your mortal perception, your tiny little pinhole perspective, looks like silence and darkness, looks like oblivion, because all possible thoughts, all possible experiences, all possible knowledge are happening, and you can't comprehend that, so it looks like darkness and silence to you. Just like if you have all the sound playing at once, it cancels itself out because it literally, there are no peaks and valleys. It's just a wave of energy at that point. It's just a poof, and there is no shock wave anymore. It's just a pressure at that point. It makes no sound. Just like I said earlier, when you have sound canceling technology, if you stagger the waves just right, the sound will go away, because the peaks of two different sounds will converge and create destructive interference, and you'll have no sound. Well, when all experiences are had at once, right?
Then nothing happened at all.
You can't sense it. Just like a rainbow. Like if you put a rainbow together, you get white light. Well, white light is actually colorless. It's not white. It is colorless, and even a black light is light, okay? Yeah. So whiteness is not light. That's not the idea of like the rainbow making white. The white is actually just brightness. It's not light, it's brightness. So when you have all the colors of a rainbow together, the colors cancel out and becomes a non-color. When you have all sound come together, it cancels out and becomes a non-sound. When all sight comes together, it becomes non-sight. When all sense, so that is omniscience. That absolute nothingness of oblivion, of deepest sleep, of death is omniscience. You just don't think of it that way because you are egoistically bound to the individual thoughts. You think that's reality. That's just a teeny tiny piece of reality that your attention is focused on. Remember what I said before. You can shift your consciousness around your body to the point where you can even put it in the tip of your finger if you're really good at it. Consciousness is doing the same thing with itself on a cosmic level. Consciousness is focusing on the Alchemist right now and nowhere else. And all the things going on in the the Alchemist story are what it's experiencing. Those thoughts are just little blibble blaps going through your brain, but there's also ones going through mine and everybody else's. And at any moment, consciousness can shift to any one of those and experience it. And it is there at all times because time is an illusion. Time is bullshit too. That's why consciousness can be equal in me and you, and we don't know because we have forgotten.
And that's, I mean, that at the end of the day, if we did know all of it, then we couldn't have the experience. So when we're going through all this, just like, the goods, the bads, once you hit that bliss, that nirvana, knowing it's all aligned, all together, and yet we forget. It's about once you understand and can embark on that journey, and you have, then all you have to do is just keep going forward and understand everything's already aligned. Like everything you need is within you, like already off the get-go. And that's what has helped me out more than anything is I felt like I always had a lack, but at the end of all the workings I've had with spirits, all I realized is everything I've asked or felt like I needed, I already had within. And also learning patience. We think about things and want it like that, but if we have that, then putting in the work, the days, building up to that thing, and not just being either the wealthy or the wealthy, like you said, like there's actually time and effort, and as you're doing that, you're also evolving inside, and you're becoming what you're going to need for your next step. And if you knew what your final step would be, you wouldn't even have any idea on how to get there. And
Let
that's
me
why
say something that might blow your mind. What if every accomplishment is really a shedding of something that limits you? What if every time you accomplish a goal, you're really putting down a piece of baggage that's clouding your vision of yourself. And that's why you become lost, because you don't have necessarily so what do? When you've put down all your baggage, there's only two options. You go pick up some new baggage, or you turn inward and realize that all of that's a game, that there's no point, that it's all pointless. The Tao has no purpose. It simply goes this way and that. Okay. And so when we're talking about this evolving into this and becoming this and that and learning this and that and achieving this and that, to me, that just sounds like you haven't put all your baggage away yet. You're still carrying a load, not because I don't still strive to accomplish. It's just, it's not about that. It's like, there's some video games that even after you beat them, you keep playing them. So there's no purpose to them anymore. It's just to do it. I am closer to that part of the game now than I've ever been. I'm at the point where I'm living life to live it now, not to accomplish things, not to grow, not to evolve. The only accomplishment I'm seeking now is to communicate what I know and to better be able to communicate it for both the pleasure, because to me, there's a deep pleasure in telling somebody something and watching their eyes go like, holy shit. I love that moment. To me, that's huge. That, and I feel like when I say purpose, I mean, I feel like it's one of the things I've been put here to do, is to be another, so like I call Alan Watts my the digital force ghost, Jedi master that I learned from. I learned from his digital force ghost. He was my only real guru. Like that wasn't myself. When I say that, my own higher guru manifested and said, hey, look at this motherfucker and learn from him. That's it. Right. So he's not even my guru, but I'm just saying that's my guru would be Alan Watts. And there's been other lesser gurus, but he has been the one that I orbit around forever. He's my Obi-Wan Kenobi. And the great irony is that there's a part of me that wants to do what he's done, but do it for this occult left-hand community. Mm-hmm. I want to be, if I have to be brutally honest, and people are like, oh, he's such an arrogant asshole for this. No, I want to be that. I want to be the guy who brought a different kind, like, look, I'm not as satanic as all these other guys. I'm not here to give you the gimmick of this other than just an aesthetic. That's mostly an aesthetic for me. This that I'm giving you makes this make sense, though. If you think about it. What is the rebellion of Lucifer if not a being that recognized that it was God and that this other God wasn't the true God? Yeah. And it's being called a lie, like, oh, Lucifer was cast down. No, that motherfucker fled out of that lie of a heaven. That's how I see it. Yeah. Right? He didn't get cast out. He left. He realized that the one true God wasn't that motherfucker in heaven. He realized that everything's God. And that is the gift of wisdom that Lucifer gives us. Now, it's been demonized and turned into a bad guy, and the worst elements of the pride that comes before that recognition is there. It is a thing to be crossed. It's part of the shadow you have to integrate with. Yeah. But that's why I am not a theistic Luciferian, although I do recognize the Lucifer archetype and egregore is real. But I see myself as a philosophic Luciferian more than anything.
Well, I mean, when I was looking back in the Sumerian and then the whole thing, with him and Inky and all that, it just felt like so much more of that we're supposed to be empowered, and all these other beings were trying to get rid of our empowerment and shine that and become greater. And I mean, that's a huge paradigm flip, but the world's trying to make this good guy the bad guy and this bad guy the good guy, and everything's flipped upside down. Only it's not Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah. Dude, every time a nation conquers another, the heroes of that old nation get turned into bad guys. Every time, So
the narrative, and that just shows, the war. I mean, you can even look into countries' flags, like the eagle and the serpent. And the serpent's usually about wisdom, and the eagle's about war. And just by seeing how that state or establishment would be run, how it's like all warlike, and that's why we're the eagle. And there's obviously secret orders that have the dual-headed eagle and all this other stuff. I'm not gonna go into that, but like there are these establishments and big corporate things that are going on in the world, and people aren't even aware about that situation. It's like, did you want to be a warmonger or live in fear, or empower yourself with that love? And what I appreciate is, like you have this knowledge, and so now you're like, it's time for me. Not only do you get, the great feeling behind teaching it, but, doing that and basically telling people what works and doesn't work in your process. And I mean, that's why I like the magic scene too, is, and like what I like about seeing about everyone on here is everyone has their unique way and perception and techniques that have worked, and to be able to just tell people about it without caring about being persecuted. Like, doing that and expressing everything I know from all the years of all the good things I did versus the bad things, and be able to be there and express that. That's what the whole world's about. Like in this future we're going to, is telling people and doing what you can. And I mean, that's also why I'm doing the other projects too. Like, obviously there's certain music things, and I get it. Like there's luggage. I could say, like, I could just throw away the list and say whatever. But I guess I'm at the point where I'm going to get all of these ones I have set out in front of me and then see what happens. And maybe I go and get off grid after that. Maybe none of that becomes something, but it's not about expectations, but it's about, I guess, getting that expression out. And maybe that will be it. Maybe in like 5 months or 5 years from now, I'll be an onion. I'll just be an empty onion. There won't be any more layers, dude.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a rushing nesting doll all the way down, and that's why it's there. This is, understand that you are chaos / Brahman / Atman / soul. So I use all those terms interchangeably. You are that, Tatvamasi. And what I think that is, in our mortal materialistic mind, the best model for it is a conscious multiverse, in which anything that is remotely possible in our material sciences, whatever is probably a lot more than we think is possible, but whatever is possible in natural law happens. So there's certainly, let's say that natural physical law as we know it is all there is, and there's no way to change that. Let's say that there's only one configuration that physics can be in. If that's the case, then let's say the universe is infinite in size, which it probably is. If it's infinite in size, then in that infinity of space and time around us, every possible configuration of every bit of energy exists at least once. Then, if time and space is infinite, it repeats over and over again. So that means there's an infinite number of observable universes as we understand them out there. Within the total universe, there's an infinite number of me and you out there in every possible configuration, as well as repeating the same one of us over and over again. That multiverse, that's just one way of looking at the multiverse. It could also be in a dimensional sense where it doesn't require infinite space. Maybe it's bubbles of different. The point is, everything that can exist does. If it exists like that, if that is the multiverse, and Tatvamasi, that thou art, just think of that possibility for a minute. Just think about that. That actually explains so much. It even explains the perception of magic. Because instead of changing the world, what an absurd idea. You can't bend the spoon. It doesn't exist, as they say in the Matrix.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's all perception shift. So you could get, you could do your ritual, and then it's almost like you go into this multiverse and with those multiverse thoughts or whatever the hell,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a continual shifting of that.
And you don't notice it because it's a seamless shift between two very similar worlds.
Yeah.
That's actually the foundation of what I think happens. But here, I'll even beat you one more than that. The
Wow.
ritual is pointless. The ritual is just an excuse. It's just a moment in time where your ego can accept the change. You feel like there's no possible way that I could go from being a poverty-stricken motherfucker to having my own YouTube channel with all these famous people and blah, 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 and all of this just by doing it. No way, that's impossible. I'm going to do a ritual. And so I do a ritual, and now I feel like, hey, the gods are watching me. The demons are going to make it possible. It gives a psychic excuse for my consciousness that's embroiled in this ego story to say, hey, maybe it'll be possible that it'll work. And then the miracle, the synchronistic miracle happens totally rationally, totally plausibly. You can see step by step how it happened. It wasn't like I woke up one day in a completely different world, although that does sometimes happen. We can all admit that we've had weird ass days where we're like, wait, something's different. I don't know what, but it is. You know, the what's the Berenstain versus Berenstein Bears, the Mandala effect. That's real. I don't think that that's a mistake just because your memory's off. I think people literally came from other realities. They still retained enough of their memory from another reality that they're going, wait a minute, I think I shifted a universe. Anyway.
The Luke Skywalker.
Right, yeah. I'll do one better than the ritual. The ritual is just an excuse. The actual shift happened before all that. The shift actually happened when you first... It didn't even happen when you first decided it, because it's not based on your ego's desires. It's based on your highest will. This is what, when Crowley said, do as thou wilt, is the whole of the law, love under will, blah, blah, blah. Do as thou wilt. He said it in that King Jamesy kind of religious way because he was talking about the will of the divine of God, which you are. This the Alchemist guy is a character that God is pretending to be. And the will of God is inevitable. It's happening already all around you.
Mm.
And you are that God. Your ultimate nature is that God. It's not the Alchemist. And we all sit there and we hear that. And some of us go, yay. And some of us go, well, that kind of sucks. Then what's the point of being or what's the... but I want to feel like I got control. That's because you're still carrying a baggage of ego. You still want to be this character. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. There's nothing wrong at all with that. It's fine. You're here to do that. I don't judge that. Except when people force that on others, say, that's not true. You're not God. You can't be. If you were God, then make that mountain walk. And it's like, but it doesn't work that way. That's not the point. It is not here to amuse you. It's not here. I can't just as conscious be like, hey, let's make the magic. If I could, it would walk for me, but you wouldn't see it because you'd stay in that universe where that didn't happen because you don't want to see it. You want to prove me wrong. If you say to me, Thorne, prove you're a magician by making this cup float around my head. For all you know, I did that. And in my universe, it's floating around your head and the whole world's going, holy shit, Thorne's a god. In your universe, you proved me wrong. And everyone's like, ha, 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 Thorne's an asshole. So we're all going to see the universe, the reality that our higher will wants us to see. Yeah. When I say higher will, that's even a misnomer. It's really your true will, your truest will.
Well, and it's even when you do a ritual or whatever the hell, when you feel like you're supposed to be doing something and then you do it and nothing occurs throughout the thing. It's like everything's successful, but your perception about it or you change in some type of way instead of being so attached to that.
And attachment makes the shifts harder.
Yeah,
the more attached you are to who you think you are, even the good stuff, the harder it's going to be for you to shift to a world that's different. Because even if there's an infinite number of worlds that have variety to them, and they're all very similar to you, your attachment to this story that you're on right now makes it hard to shift to any other. Even if you believe like, oh well, I could go to a universe where I'm rich, but then you're going to be like, but what if that richness hurts who I am? What if it makes me a stuck-up asshole? So that little bit of hesitation is why you don't shift to that reality, because you feel like you're going to change and you don't want to change. You want to be who you are. There's all these... this is why the word psyche used to mean soul. Now it means something else. Now it just means a brain thing. And that's not what it is. That modern neuro and psychiatric science, it's effective, but it's like effective in the same way that leeches were effective back in the dark ages. It's not actually working the way they think it's working. You know what I mean? It works on the process, on the symptoms, but it's not they don't actually understand. Like when someone says, oh, I can shift my mind around. So no, your mind doesn't work that way. Your mind is not that. I think that they're completely wrong. In fact, it's something I want to make sure I proclaim in my books is, modern neuroscience conflates the mind, consciousness, ideas, thoughts, feelings, all as the same thing. It's not. They'll use the same word for all of that. And that is so wrong. If you really examine, if you have that non-dual awakening and you step back and you pull back and you see literally another way to put it would be like the parts of your soul separating. That's another way to put it. If you want to put it in a really spooky sounding way, and you pull back from yourself and you see your body, your intellect, your mind, your emotions, blah, blah, blah. And literally like the 7 parts of the soul or the 5 parts of the soul, and consciousness is at the top, the light of God, if you will. Consciousness is at the top. The illuminator is at the top. And you go, I am the illuminator. I am not the illumined. I mean, I am, but that's not my true identity. My true identity is the consciousness. When you pull all that off and you're sitting at the back of it, you go, man, psychiatrists and shit, they got this all ass backwards. They're conflating all this shit together when each one of those is a part of the soul. It's a part of the holistic self. And you can separate them out. So a neuroscientist will say, well, we see consciousness switching on. No, you see consciousness engaging with. That's where you're getting it wrong. The brain is not a creator of consciousness. It's a transceiver for consciousness. It doesn't, consciousness is not generated by the brain. Consciousness experiences the brain.
Yeah, it connects the outer to the inner with your body. Absolutely. And I just heard that a couple of days ago, and you're right. How they have it so messed up, take this pill, do this, do that. And it's just a nonstop spree. And I mean, that even comes down to, your brain's made of water, and you got to be cautious of the type of water you're drinking.
Yeah.
Something as simple
water
as
has
that.
memory. Yeah.
And you don't want to eat fluoride. No good. Hey, unfortunately, brother, I'm going to have to hop off because I got to work in the morning.
Hey, no, that's fine because I'm getting a little, rusty in my throat there. So I let's do a wrap up. But before everybody runs away, because I said that, tell us what you're offering people, because we forgot the whole time. You said you wanted to bring that up. You've got some courses that you're teaching and stuff that you want to do.
Oh, definitely. And thanks again for having me on, and everyone who's here. I really appreciate all of it.
Let's get some likes for Ellie Alchemist. Give us some likes and tell them where they can first of all find you, and then about your stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube. I'll send you all the links and everything after this. And I have some videos about working with different spirits and different experiences. I've not had much recently because I've been working on a kid's show, and I'm working on music in my job. But I mean, excuse, whatever the case. You can check that out there. But this January, I'm launching on teachable.com. If you just type in blacklightalchemy.teachable.com, I have a course. We're going to go through a few different pillars of just growth. In fact, let me just give you.
And I'm very interested myself in, like you were talking about, you have like alternative history type stuff going on.
Yes,
that you're going to be talking about. That's where my, like one of my guilty pleasures is I love looking up and learning about those kinds of things. Like I love like Atlantis and all that. I love, not that I agree with everything I hear, but I love exploring that stuff to find ones that I do resonate with. Yeah. So if any of that's in there, let us know.
No, definitely. Like Gobekli Tepe, like how I always say that word wrong, but just like how that even looks like it was covered up, and how these ancient civilizations all across the world, they all tell the same type of story, and interconnecting those type of things. And just by understanding, like what we're being taught, like our school system is the Rothschild school system.
Yep. Yep.
So they're basically,
it's taught to make you not think. It's taught to make you an idiot. It really is.
A bot to be plugged into the system, their system, because they have the money and control. So it's
And
a
we
way,
play into it because we say we want our kids to be useful with the job instead of teach our kids to think. We want them to be good cogs in the machine because that's what we've been taught.
so they can
Oh
make
man.
money, so they
Yeah.
can be
Yeah.
fine. And so, yeah, like it's just seeing and being aware of certain things as well as the water. There's different spirits. You don't have to work with any of the spirits, but if you'd like to, I have what it's done for me, kind of what you need beforehand, then actually a ritual video that we do it together, and different breathing exercises, different ways of getting your body, like staying inside of an ice bath and taking cold showers, just different things that can get your mind in different states to empower your spells, but to really, at the end of the day, empower yourself even more and have more clarity in your vision. And I'm trying to make blacklight Olympians, basically, so it's a physical pushing yourself, knowing you physically can overcome things, but also spiritually empowering you. So the Blacklight Alchemy, go and check it out. I'll be sure to send it your way on Teachable. And then also, if you just like watching people play games, you can go to my Twitch on L_the_alchemist.
Are you on my Discord? I think you are, right? I forget
And
if you're on my Discord.
yeah, I am. I actually
Pop all your stuff in the shameless plugs, and
Okay.
that'll be an easy way for everybody to grab it and
Perfect.
participate in there. Because you can always borrow our freaking Discord chat rooms to hold your little meetings and stuff. That's fine. So
great.
if
That'd
that
be
helps
great.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, that sounds great.
Because we have those public chat rooms, like the voice chat rooms, for a reason. So not many people use them, but they're there in case people want to get together and just talk.
Sure. Well, that sounds good. Thank you. And I appreciate just letting me come back on here and chat it up with you. Definitely very invigorating stuff, man. Always. Like, I just appreciate it.
Hey man, I appreciate you too. I mean, anybody who doesn't think I'm a total maniac or an asshole is right with me. So thank you for coming on, man. It's really funny because that's the thing. Like when you speak from the heart, you're gonna get two reactions: people who appreciate it and people who are threatened by it.
Yeah.
And and it's really nice when I come across people who aren't threatened by it. And you have an open mind and you're on that path, and I see you even since when I first met you, like you've changed in what you do and what you think, and you've accumulated even more of that baggage letting go process is happening. And I'm hoping in a few years you're gonna be like, dude, you're right, I had to let go of everything, and then bang, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and now it's just fun. It's not even about getting better, it's just fun to do. And that I think is, remember, I think the universe was created in a mind of play. I think that it's a game. I think Alan Watts is right. And I think the game specifically is hide and seek. That's the one that it's really all about. And man, when that hits you for real, when you realize that the hider and the seeker are one and the same, when you realize that that's why we call ourselves seekers, we're not truth seekers. What is that truth we're seeking? We're seeking ourselves, man. And when you figure that out, it's like... like you don't come back from that. You don't go and you don't watch, like, you can't watch the news and take that shit seriously. You just go, fuck you all, you're trying to lie. Your whole world just, like, it looks different, and you don't come back. So I'm glad to see you on that path, and I know you got a lot to share and teach the world too, so I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, and I wish you success, and come on again, man. I'd love to have you.
Absolutely. Hell yeah. Well, everyone have a great ass night. Dude, once again, much blessings to you, dude, and we'll stay in touch. I'll be back.
All right, brother. Alpha says, thank you guys, DH and L, 100% hard heart. So Alpha loves you, and so thank you, Alpha. All right, L, I'm gonna say goodbye, and I'm gonna say goodbye to everybody else. If you like my dumbass nonsense, make sure you click on the Linktree link in the description, and we'll get that going right away. Let me close this window since he bounced, so you guys don't see my stuff. There we go. Yeah, let's do it like this. Boop. There we go. So if you like my crazy ass stuff, just click the link in the description. It'll be the Linktree link. You can purchase my books. You can purchase all kinds of stuff. I am not doing my class personally until come January. I'll be restarting it, and we're going to reformatting it a little bit more to focus on meditation more than other things, but it's still going to be going on. Right now, Eddie Romanov is my substitute teacher, and he's been going through the stuff that I don't know, which is always really cool. So he's been doing a really good job. And if you want to get spell services, I don't know if I'm going to be offering those much longer. I'm kind of tired and burnt out on doing spells for other people, at least with the current mentality people have, where spells are like a vending machine. That's not my style. I'd rather do spells that give you spiritual progress and a little bit of something on the side, if that makes sense. So we'll see. I'll have to think it through. Of course, you know, consults and things are always available. So, all right, guys, until next time, mind the shadows. Hopefully Fleshy will be back next week. Hopefully he'll be feeling better. He's not feeling sick. He's just really tired. So hopefully you guys check it out next week. I don't know when I'll be posting a regular video again. Probably not until closer to Christmas, only because I'm working so much at my other job that the time that I have off, I don't want to spend on anything else. So we'll see. I might try to do a video this week. Don't know. But once January hits, I'll probably be back to one video a week plus live streams. So make sure you're subbed if you're new. I'm not going anywhere. I appreciate you all. Anyway, guys, I'm rambling. Have a good night, and I will see you all next week.